Welcome to the Meredith Patterson Podcast. Here is your host, Meredith Patterson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Meredith Patterson Podcast. I'm your host, Meredith, and this is a place where we talk about resilience, reinvention, and living the life of abundance. And today I am so excited to introduce my guest, Suzanne Longstreet. Suzanne is a master coach, a trainer of Neuro Linguistic Programming. I said that right, I think.
Yeah.
And the creator of the Quantum U Activation Method and the DCFAI Framework, which we're going to talk about what that is. She's widely known as the Millionaire Activator, helping high-achieving women clear subconscious blocks, reclaim their identity, and build thriving businesses aligned with their values. Oh my gosh, I love you already, Suzanne. She blends neuroscience, hypnosis, positive psychology, and transformational coaching to turn self-doubt into self-trust. Suzanne is also the co-author of the bestselling book, The Millionaire Codes, The Secret Brain Science Path to Supernatural Success. My goodness, she's awesome. Suzanne, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. What a beautiful introduction. You did perfectly.
I mean, I just reading off what you've done in the world, and it's amazing to me. You just, I love it. So I always say how lucky I am to get to talk to women like you. And, but I want to start with how this all began for you. So your brand success and clarity says so much in just 2 words. It's a wonderful thing. But can you share your journey into coaching and what led you to create such transformative framework for women and people in general?
Yeah. So there's 2 places I could start. One is grade 2, that day that I missed in school when they gave out the manual for life. And I always felt like, ooh, there's something I'm missing. Why is this not going well for me? Like I just felt like I was missing everything. So that was kind of the pattern of my life. And then
Yeah.
I got through and muddled through and came into HR, human resources, and then started to work with leaders and thought, I found myself. I'm in human resources and working with people on performance management and having difficult conversations and how to coach people to get the best out of them, how to believe in them, how like all of this wonderful leadership qualities. And I loved that work until the day I got fired for my behavior.
Oh,
Yeah.
tell us about that.
That was not a great moment, I have to say. I had been a job had been created for me by my friend, and then she just hung me out to dry and did not coach me. She kept saying, you need to change your behavior. But if you know any leaders who are just saying you need to change, this is too much. I need some details here. If you could tell me exactly what I need to change.
Yeah.
What am I doing specifically that's not serving and what's going on? And I do know there was a lot of crying. This was a while ago. This was 20 years ago. So there was a lot of crying in corporate, which is not a good idea. And a lot of indecisiveness on my part because I truly was looking to her for direction. She would give me direction. I would go do the things she said, but that's not right. So I was really not doing well. And I had gone from the job I loved, which was performance management leadership, into learning and development in the pensions area. And I truly thought, learning and development is learning and development. No, it's a totally different thing. I was, square peg, round hole, not a fit. And
Yeah.
what I now know after many years of self-discovery and trying to figure myself out and what was going on, what
Yeah.
was wrong with me was a familiar refrain that would play in my head.
Yep.
I was diagnosed 20 years after being fired with something called 10 years after being fired, something called complex post-traumatic stress disorder.
Okay.
This was the behavior that this lovely woman who was my past friend, former boss, could not identify. Well, I understand that now. There's no way she could identify that
Right.
because she wasn't familiar with that, nor would she think that me, who, looked like this confident individual, could ever have. Well, I got that because I had been in a very abusive first marriage. And he had threatened to kill me. I had broken bones, bumps and bruises, and all sorts of things. And he kept telling me I would be nothing. I would have nothing. I would do nothing without him. You can imagine it was 3 years of being in this brainwashing of being,
Yeah.
you're not good enough. You have nothing. You don't know. And so whenever I got triggered by, you don't know what you're doing in corporate, and it would take me back to those moments. So now I have the clarity of being able to say, oh, that's what was going on.
Wow.
But during that time, I didn't know.
Yeah, and that's wow, what a it's so insightful to have you go through that journey with now the reflection of what had created that quote unquote bad behavior,
Yeah.
which whatever that bad behavior was, it's you probably standing up for yourself in that triggering moment of you don't know what you're doing and yes I do, because you overcorrect when you have been abused. I know that because I did have, not a not so great first marriage where I was knocked down as
Yeah.
well and told you're not this, you're not that. And there's that, and sadly we do have sometimes those relationships that can teach us so much about ourselves and we can therefore be resilient and grow out of that, which it looks like you have absolutely done. Um, so thank you for sharing all of that so eloquently because we need to learn from things we've gone through, but oh, this is what I love so much about women who now coach and help other women. When they've been through something like that, they can really reach into those personal experiences where other people couldn't. Yes. And so you often talk about like subconscious blocks. So maybe somebody who doesn't have that clarity that you do, success and clarity is your brand. So, subconscious blocks can be a real barrier between women and success or just growth. So, for listeners who might not fully understand this, what are subconscious blocks
Mm.
and how do they hold us back? That's a whole podcast in itself.
It is. Honestly, it's a whole podcast and on its own. Okay. So life happens for us. And things happen usually before we're 7 years old, before our neurology has fully formed, and we don't know what to do with this flood of emotions.
Hmm.
Okay? So I've had many different things. I had one client who accidentally locked herself in the bathroom when she was 3 years old.
Okay.
Okay? So, like, accident. And,
Yeah.
but the meaning, she didn't know what to do. She was panicked. Nobody will find me. She was in the house with her parents and her siblings. So, like, but in that moment, she was all alone. And so there was all sorts of decisions that she made in that moment for protection.
Hmm.
And then what happens is as we go out into life and we grow up, any other incident that happened that was similar, like where she didn't feel safe, she would go back and remember that, and then it would get bigger and grow, and then she would just do everything to keep herself safe. So she wasn't engaging and she wasn't doing the business that she wanted to do, and she wasn't showing up the way she wanted to show up. So like it just exacerbated what had happened. So the unconscious mind was saying, or the subconscious mind was saying, oh, we have a problem here. And anytime we see an event like this, we're going to go back to when we were 3 and we were locked in that bathroom.
Yeah.
So those are like, I know that that's such a simple thing, but what's happening is now this woman is, so for example, in her 40s or her 50s, and she's been told by a business coach, well, you've got to get out there and get onto stages and speak more in order to more people to find people. And they go, no, I'm not doing that because the unconscious mind is saying, you can't be more seen. You're still stuck in that bathroom.
Yeah.
Those are
And
the
what
unconscious blocks that we create.
And that's such a good example of one of your clients. And my curiosity brain is wondering, how did you pull yourself out of those triggers that you had? Because that's sometimes so hard. I mean, you can help others sometimes, but it sometimes is hard to help yourself with that. So take me back just to kind of timeline it. Go back to you had that boss who fired you for bad
Yeah.
behavior, all of those things. How did you then discover those triggers for yourself and find a way to heal yourself through all this work, because I know that's kind of where a lot of my work on myself, I don't coach anyone right now, but like giving to other people comes from me working on myself. So, yeah, how did you find your way through that?
Yeah. I realized I couldn't do it by myself. I was trying to bootstrap it and do it my own self. And
Yes.
I went to therapists and I went to I went to many different things, Reiki, past life regression. I did a lot of different things, meditation, and it wasn't getting me. I felt worse afterwards.
Okay.
Finally, I took the Neuro Linguistic Programming training courses,
Okay.
thinking, okay, this is going to make me a better coach. I'm going to help
And what is neuro linguistic?
NLP? Yeah. Neuro Linguistic
NLP?
Programming. NLP was created in the 70s by two men, Bandler and Grinder, and they studied psychology and they studied people who were having incredible results with clients. So people who were therapists, people who were hypnotherapists, people who were like Carl Jung's theories, many of the greats in psychology, and they were studying them and going, how come they're getting such great results? How could we take this down and break it down what they're doing and create a formula or a technique that would get somebody through to a better result for themselves. And
Yeah.
so when I learned that, first of all, the first thing they teach us in neurolinguistic programming, NLP, is you're not broken. You have all the resources inside of yourself. All we need to do is get rid of all the limiting beliefs, all the patterns of thinking that are not serving you, to go deep down and discover what's really who you really are.
Oh gosh, isn't that so, just to hear you say that, don't you just wish you could? I've heard many people say this, can't I just do a reset button? Can't I just get rid of all that stuff? And that's what you're saying this can
But
be?
we get you back to that formidable, fierce 5-year-old before any stuff happened.
Yes, your fierce self before you locked yourself in the bathroom or whatever it was that you did. But yes, God, I love that. So how do you do that? What is one technique that you would do? And I know that again, we have it's like 5 podcast episodes in itself.
Yeah.
But I see you if you're watching on YouTube, you're like rubbing your hands together. You're excited to talk about this. So yes, how do you do it?
This is my happy place. Okay, first of all, for somebody who's looking to do it for themselves, I'm going to just say the book, The Millionaire Codes, I wrote it with one of my clients who she approached me because she wanted to get to $1 million. We had 4 months left in the year. I said, we can do that. She was at 300K. We got her to over $1 million in 110 days.
Oh
This
my gosh.
stuff works.
I
Okay.
love it.
She had to take action and she was doing that, but she was always just taking the action, but not big enough.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we got her into a place where she could. Okay, so this book does help people, gives you some foundation.
Yes.
Second, one of my favorite techniques is taking somebody back to a first event, the first one that they can remember. And I just ask them to go back to that moment, go down into that moment, see what they saw, hear what they heard, feel what they were feeling, and then come out of that moment and look at themselves and go, oh my gosh. But just sort of look at it and go, hey, I was just a 4-year-old, or I was just a 3-year-old, or I was just this. And then I bring their wise self from today, and I have the wise self from today go back and talk to the little self. And then this is called an NLP change history. It's a very
Okay.
term. But and so what happened, then we recreate it and have conversation, and then they just rewire their brain in such a way that the neurology shifts. They've changed the meaning of the story that they created when they were so young and they couldn't understand what was happening to them
Yeah.
into a gift. And then I always add a little bit of an element and say, okay, so what would your younger self prefer to be doing? And so for me, it was playing at the beach. And I added my fairy godmother because that's fun. Whereas other clients say, oh, I just go play with the other kids, or I go play Lego in my room, or I go do this. Great. Go send them off doing that, rewrite that, come back to now, go out into the future, talk to your future self, bring your future self back to now. So this process takes 10 minutes.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, that's what I love about all these techniques is they all take it takes me longer to explain a technique to a person It takes me longer to than to do it. It takes me longer to set all the foundations and the reasoning why, so that they can go, "Oh, this is gonna work for me." And then we do the shifts, and it's fast.
And it sounds a little bit like myself who has done therapy, inner child work, talking to your younger self, taking care of yourself if you weren't taken care of as, a child in those moments, and also neuroscience, a little bit of rewiring.
Yes.
Because if you keep telling the same story over and over again, you tell your sob story, you want sympathy, but then what happens is it's you're just reaffirming that into your life. So if you change that story and you go and have your now self talk to your 3-year-old self or who is locking yourself in the bathroom or whatever, and you just change the story. And then you do get that feeling of release and that subconscious block. And I did this with my therapist, and I kind of was rolling my eyes sometimes when I was talking to my little self. She
Oh,
told me to take a picture of myself out and look at
mhm.
myself, and for a long time, I would just cry at my younger self, and that's okay because you have to get through that, right? But then eventually, even if you're doing it with crying tears or rolling your eyes because you don't think it's gonna work, these are things that is like quantum physics and rewiring of your brain, yes?
Absolutely. Because here's
Yeah.
what's happening is every time you retell the story with great emotion, it stores in a different place in your brain.
Oh, okay.
Not like so I would tell my therapist, my first therapist said, "Your story is very shiny." I would tell it over and over. I would meet you in the store, and you would know by the time I left the checkout that I had been a battered woman in my first marriage.
Okay.
I told everybody. So what I was doing was I was actually just restoring. So my unconscious mind went, "Oh, it's happening again. We've got to store that in a different place. We got to store that in a different place." And
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
stored, yeah, it was terrible. So
And do you think you were telling yourself that story to get sympathy or to
correct.
maybe yeah,
Oh yeah, I was
yeah,
running the damsel in distress so
yeah,
beautifully. Like, fix me,
yeah.
help me, do it for me. Oh, it was bad.
Or feel bad for me, so give me attention or whatever that is. And that when you yeah, when you do change that story or you start to take care of yourself. And yes, that's again a whole other podcast in itself. But let's talk about the quantum U activation method, which is in the Millionaire book. Yes.
It will be in the next one, the
Oh,
Millionaire
good. Okay,
Framework.
so we're going to preface the next
Yeah,
book that you're working on,
yeah.
which I love that you're writing another book because we need more of that. So one of your signature approaches is the quantum U activation method, and I think that's awesome. Can you walk us through what that is?
Yeah. So I believe that the first thing we need to do is identify the root problem. We all have one. We just have a different label of what it is. And so
Yeah.
when we identify that and we get that, I get to the root problem with people in the first session.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I remember one of my clients, she was a cognitive behavioral therapist, and she said, "Oh, this annoys me." And I was like, "We just got to your root problem. What's the problem?" She goes, "It took me 18 months with my psychiatrist to get to the root problem, and you did it in less than 3 hours." And I'm like, "How's that a problem?" So she was not happy with me and then she became an NLP trainer because she loved the process. So the first thing is identify the root problem.
Okay. How do you do that?
I ask questions. I
Okay.
spent 3 hours with a person asking questions, asking questions.
Okay.
Tell me about the events, what happened? And what I'm looking and listening for is what are the patterns of behaviors that they're having? Then we pick one of those symptoms, the problems.
Yeah.
I go underneath and I say, "Okay, so we know you have this problem." "Yes, I have this problem." "How are you seeing it in your life?" "Oh my god, well, it's happening here." And they really get this domino effect. It's like, "Oh my gosh, I realize that I'm doing it here and I'm doing it here and I'm doing it here." Great. So we know this is the problem. Great. So then we go underneath that and I keep asking them the same question. And it's, "How is that a problem? What does that make you feel?" And when we go down, we usually get to a root problem like unworthy or unlovable or powerless or even not
Yeah.
good enough. And then so now we've got that. So we identify the root problem, and I know that when that root problem shifts for the person, they're able to more fully connect with their identity, their true identity. That fierce 5-year-old that we
The
were.
fierce 5-year-old. Yep. Yep.
Okay. So that's the first part of the activation. I call it the identify and it's at the bottom of the triangle. I
Yeah.
can give you an image if you want to share with people.
Yeah.
The next step is now we've got all these parts. Everybody has parts. You probably talk to your therapist about parts. Well, part of me
Yeah.
wants this and part of me wants that. You've seen people get into their part when they're acting like a 2-year-old. You know? That's a
Yes.
part. So we want to integrate that part so that it's no longer acting like a cruise ship anchor in their unconscious mind, because that's what it's doing. Because part of you wants to move forward and have the success and abundance and prosperity and everything that you want, but there's like this drag. That's a part.
Yeah.
So we do parts integration techniques. All of NLP techniques are a parts integration. So we'll do different techniques from that. Some are just words, some are close your eyes, some are hypnotic. It's pretty fun. There's all sorts of them.
I have to say, I'm really glad that you were fired back then because you found your calling.
Oh
Because
yeah.
this is something where, I think about this and where things would happen to us in the moment where maybe they weren't so great, or we thought they weren't so great, or they were our bottom. And what happens is if you find your purpose and you move forward and you learn from that and you grow from that, you're now doing what I feel is your calling, because I'm sitting there listening to you going, oh my gosh, all of the education you had before, with HR and just your curiosity about people. I'm an actress, so I'm curious about people. I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious about why is somebody acting like this, whether they're a person I'm portraying or they're a real person. That's always my curiosity. So what you just explained on how to just kind of find find the root cause or your part of you. I say people are acting like 2-year-olds who are having a temper tantrum as adults, and you see it all the time and you realize, oh, you've got some work to do, sir or ma'am or whatever it is.
Yes.
Um, and so thank God you are explaining all these techniques, which are available in your books, your new book that's coming out very soon, I hope. Yes.
I just got an email from the publisher today. They're reviewing it for content. So hopefully in the next
Okay.
couple of months. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, hopefully in the next couple months. So we'll look for that. And all of this is going to be in the show notes. So you also developed a framework that is DCFAI, which you will explain what that stands for. And I want to know, how can listeners start to apply this maybe right now as they're
Oh,
on a walk or folding their laundry or
yeah.
whatever they're doing while they're listening to this podcast, this framework that you developed. So explain it and what it is.
Okay. I want to explain that. I just want to close the loop for the listeners on the quantum U activation, if that's okay.
Yes. No, this is why you're a coach, because you're really great. You're coaching me back so if you're watching on YouTube, Suzanne's putting up a triangle. So she explained the bottom,
And the
and
side.
I'm just excited. So I'm moving on to the next
Yeah,
framework.
that's okay. And I
So
appreciate that. I love
explain the rest of the triangle in
so
that methodology.
so the left side of the triangle, as you're looking at it, is the first we ignite integrate. Excuse me. Let's start that again. The left side of the triangle is where we integrate the parts that are fractioning out, not serving you, so that you can ignite your potential.
Perfect.
So the first step will get you to clarity. The second step will get you into courage. The last step of the triangle, or the other side of the triangle, is now where you're making a bigger impact. And when you
Okay.
make a bigger impact by being seen, more visible, showing up more, you have always more income, and that builds your confidence. So again, I'll send an image for your team to put in the show notes so that you have
Yes. I love that. Oh my gosh. That alone, just that, a triangle is a very powerful shape
Yes.
in the world. But just to have that framework of really finding your root cause and then explain the left side is
Integrate the parts and ignite your potential.
integrate the parts, ignite your potential. Basically, like eliminate the barriers that are
Yeah.
happening with all of us. And it's funny because people sometimes, they'll look at somebody who looks like they've got it all together. You still have that, that ability to, or you still have barriers. Like you have things that are, I guarantee anyone who's listening to this is like, I've got stuff to work on, even if they're pouting and acting like a 2-year-old. I'm perfect. No, nobody is. We all have stuff to work on. And that's such a wonderful framework. So now let's move to DCFAI Framework, what that stands for, and how we can begin applying it.
So I started to talk about how important it was to make decisions, and do them effectively. Like stop procrastinating, start making decisions. And I had a client years ago, and she said, "Suzanne, I love your DCFAI framework." And I said, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "The DCFAI." And I'm like, I'm sorry. She goes, "At the bottom of every slide, you have decide, commit, focus, act, integrate." I said, "Yeah, I just put those at the bottom of every slide. It just makes sense to me." And she goes, "Do you realize that I'm taking and she was taking a doctorate program at a very high, one of the top 3 schools in the United States, USC, and
Yeah.
like top school, doctorate program." She said, "Your framework stands up to all the other frameworks that I'm studying for my leadership doctorate."
Wow.
It does? So that made it that was affirming to me, who just went, "Well, this makes sense to me." So that's how it got started and turned into a framework. We talked about the name because I realized there's a lot of letters in there, but DC, so it stands for decide. So make a decision.
Uh-huh.
Because when we make a decision, we plug up all the holes in the quantum field where your energy is draining into all the different possibilities. So if you're in a situation where you need to make a decision and you're not making it and you feel less energized, it's because all the different energies all are poking holes, all the different possibilities are poking holes in the quantum field. So pull that energy back inside of you.
That's sometimes really hard for some people, just the first one, to decide what they're going to do. Procrastination, you talked about it, self-sabotage. That's also going from like subconscious stuff where you're like, I don't know why I'm self-sabotaging. All of that stuff, clear it all away and decide, make a decision is
Mhm.
huge. That's a huge step. If you can do that, then you're on your way, I feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And decisions become so much easier when the mindset is clear. When the subconscious blocks have been cleared, when all the resistance has gone, and it's like, well, not that. This is so simple. How is
Yeah.
this a difficult decision? I have so many clients that say to me that, like, what was I even thinking? I don't even know why I didn't do that. It doesn't matter. We don't go there. We just move forward. So
Yeah.
decide.
Decide. Yes.
Then commit. Put your time, your money, your energy into that decision. Go full all the way in. Don't decide and then go, and I'll start tomorrow. No, decide and move forward. Okay?
Also, another thing that's really difficult sometimes for people, and I'm one of those people who, when I decide I'm committed, I have to go all the way to the end, or I will beat myself up
Yeah.
because I didn't do it all the way, like all the way, and then some. So
Yeah.
that sometimes the deciding and commitment is like, let's go.
Mhm.
And then the next one,
So decide, commit, focus. Focus on what you
focus.
want. Focus on what you want. How many people have anxiety because what they're focused on is what they don't want to happen?
Hmm.
Uh,
So true.
Right? Yeah, so
So
like
true.
this to me, again, it seems so logical and so much sense after I'd taken all the trainings because I went, oh, well, of course, decide, then commit, then focus on what I want and stop thinking about, the sky is going to fall and that this is going to, because I was very much a doom weaver. And now it's like, even though I told my husband I was very positive, I'm a very positive thinker. The sky's going to fall tomorrow. He's like, really?
And you're not, and there is some survival, there is some survival tactics with that, especially with women. And it's like, it can be habitual. So if you
It
are
is.
somebody who's a worrier, or you're getting up thinking of the worst case scenario, just know that that's not your fault. And it's just a thought, swipe it away
Yeah,
and move on. And focusing on the good. And what if it all works out? What
right.
if everything you want happens? instead of, well, what's the point? All that stuff that we think.
Yeah. Yeah. We need to let that go. So decide, focus, commit. Decide, commit, focus. Now, the next one is action. We've got to move our feet.
Yes.
We've got to, keep going down the thing. And if it's, well, I don't know what to do next, Suzanne, then just pick something. The universe will conspire to give you the next step when you're ready and when you look for it.
Yeah.
Right?
And some days are easier than other to
Mhm.
take action.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard. And I always say, don't beat yourself up if that day is hard for you to take action and you only do one thing instead of maybe 3 things to
But
get
just
towards
do
your goal.
one thing.
Yeah.
Like do what feels right in that moment. And sometimes, in the past it was, for me, it was, the one thing I do every day, and I learned this from one of the books about habits by Charles Duhigg, and it was make your bed. If
Make
you
your
do
bed.
nothing else, make your bed.
That's how I start my day. I really do. I wake up and I make my bed. And there's something but there is something neurological with that. It really is. It's habitual. It's at least you've
Mhm.
made your bed. And so then at the end of the day, if maybe something didn't go right, you look and you go, but I made my bed.
Yes, exactly. And that is
It sounds so like elementary in terms of like goals, but it is something that is a good way to start your day.
And I want to say to all the women or men who might be listening and say, yeah, but I'm out of bed first. My partner is always in bed later, so I can't make the bed. You still make the bed. My husband and I have a new agreement in the last year. He gets out of bed and he pulls the covers up. So on his side. So when I get out of bed, all I have to do is pull the covers up on my side. It's not that difficult.
Yeah. And that's teamwork. That's
Yes.
also, it goes back to a whole other thing with relationships and teamwork and what makes you feel good. So you mentioned women listening and men as well. So humans, whoever's listening. But I think so many women that are listening can relate to this feeling that they're not enough. Or you had mentioned not worthy. My gosh. I feel like even the most successful women that I have met in my life, there's a moment where they just go, I'm not enough.
Mhm.
I don't have enough. I haven't done enough in my life. And so how do you guide clients to move from self-doubt to self-trust? Because I love that. I love moving from self-doubt or I'm not enough to trusting.
Okay, Meredith, I'm going to do this again, and I have to apologize as a Canadian. I'm just going to finish the DCFAI framework.
Okay. See, this is where you're coaching me, Suzanne, and I'm leaving this in the podcast. This isn't going to be cut out. What's so funny is that you're already coaching me and you don't even realize. I thought you'd finished, but this is my thing is I have a focus problem, I believe. I really do love to do too many things at once. You didn't finish it.
I-
You're right.
For
We
the
didn't
people
get
who
to
are
the I
completionists,
part.
are going to be like, but what about the next thing? What about-
But you're so nice because you're Canadian. You're so kind about it. But yes, we're going to go back. But thank you for that.
So the last part of the DCFAI framework is the iterate. So this, and it ties into your question beautifully, which
Yes.
is, okay, now where are we? So did I get to the goal? Do I have everything that I want? Am I where I want? Okay, so iterate. Now I need to look back. Is this working? What results am I having? I'm not getting the results that I really want. I want X and I got Y. I really want X. So what decision do I need to make? What do I need to recommit to? What do I need to focus on? What actions do I need to take? And this is a beautiful spiral. And I call this, in my own mind, a success spiral, because when we keep doing the same things and this framework keeps going over and over again, we do it over and over. You decide, commit, focus, act, iterate, check it out again. And all the results that you get are just feedback on where your focus has been.
I love that. And that's going to help me in my focus.
I'm so glad.
No, it's actually really great because and I feel like this comes from your HR background because you're really having everybody kind of reassess where they are because we all have to adjust, even if it's minor. Maybe something isn't working that you tried, and then you're gonna keep going. You're gonna still take action, decision, commitment, all those things. But you're going to now adjust something that didn't work when you go back and look at it. So that's awesome. So yes, moving on to the next question. When women or men talk about not being enough and not being worthy, how do you coach them into that self-trust?
Yeah. So that was a decision at some point that they made.
Yeah.
And so we go back to that first time and we talk oftentimes about that. It's like, what happened? And sometimes I've had situations where it wasn't actually their lifetime, but it was a parent's lifetime or past generations or even past lives. We go there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guide their unconscious mind to do that clearing for them, and it just does that. So we go back to when that decision was made. So there's that's how we get rid of that root problem that you're talking about, that unworthy, all of that. And that's using
Yeah.
bigger techniques, timeline therapy. And that takes a while to do, but mostly because I need to get somebody up to a place where they trust me enough to guide their unconscious mind back that far. Okay. So that takes
Okay.
a little bit of time to get them there.
Is
Um,
that through hypnosis? Would you do
yes,
that through hypnosis?
that's
Okay.
exactly what
Because
it is.
I love past lives. I read Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian L. Weiss way back in the day.
Me too.
Like mid 90s, I think was when I read that book. And I was so fascinated by it in terms of, if you don't know that book, it's more connected to um, people who have, or this one patient who has a lot of phobias. And so, but in terms of your past lives, you can bring things into this life. It's
Yeah.
like this whole, again, whole other topic, but it's so fascinating and brilliant. And doing hypnosis, um, again, some people think it's not a real thing. Some people think it doesn't, but it is. And you've experienced it with your clients,
Oh,
yes?
yeah. I've seen people have huge transformations. So, for example, one client came to me and she had a maximum six-figure ceiling. She could get just over $100,000, but she was struggling to get any further.
Yeah.
She came to me. She said, "I have scarcity mindset, and I know that when a client can name it, that's not the problem."
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Okay.
So anyway, so we worked on that, and I said, "Okay, great." So we did the process. We did several sessions. What I learned in actually her first session is that some trauma had happened to her mother. And that trauma had been passed down through the womb to her daughter. And
Yeah.
and this is why she was having this scarcity mindset. And so when we cleared that using the techniques and the process that I do with clients, um, she was like, "Suzanne, I'm doing these things. I'm just showing up differently. And oh yeah, by the way, my husband really likes this coaching that we're doing." And I said, "You're okay, okay. I've never heard that response." She goes, "Yeah, we're having a lot more sex." And do you know
That's
why?
a different book altogether. You can need to write that book.
Exactly.
Not
You
the
know what?
Millionaire Activator, but the other activator.
The reason for that was she saw herself as attractive. She
Wow.
didn't see
Okay.
herself as attractive. So here's what happened. This amplified out with so many different things. A, she had more sex with her loved one, her husband. B, she saw herself as more attractive, so she was willing to go out and attract customers and clients. That's how the neurology shifted in her brain. So she came to me for scarcity mindset. We worked over here on this.
Mhm. Wow. And that energy, it just it permeates in everything you do. And
Everything.
if you have if you have energy where you don't feel you're worthy or you don't feel that you deserve it, especially when it comes with to money, so
Mm.
many people have so many blocks about that. I only deserve to make this amount of money or whatever it is. And it can be passed down, that generational trauma or generational rules or whatever it is. And to be able to free people of that is just, that must just feel so good.
So fun.
It
So
just
fun.
must feel so awesome because you get to see the transformation as a coach. These people are having amazing lives and amazing sex with their husbands and they're becoming millionaires. So that is just incredible. So you're known as the Millionaire Activator with
Mhm.
your book, which is such a powerful title. I'm sure that right there makes I want to read it. But what does the Millionaire Activator mean to you exactly, and how does it Like, how do you implement that into working with your clients?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you the real truth. What happened is when I worked with Sarah, the woman I wrote this book with, she introduced me at her event 6 months later. She goes, "I'd like everybody to meet Suzanne Longstreet, the millionaire maker." And I went, "Me? Oh, I guess so." And I can show you the list of all the women that I worked with that I've created. They've now got annually $1 million businesses.
Yeah.
But I never really identified with the title. So
Okay.
yes, I have had the results, but I never took it on as my identity because what I truly believe is that I get to activate the resource inside of you that is the millionaire, that by clearing up what's not serving you in your neurology and rewiring your brain so that you see yourself differently, you connect with who you truly are. So I activate that millionaire gene inside of you. So I chose the name Millionaire Activator because and I'm on a mission. I want to activate the millionaire gene that we all have inside of us and eradicate the pay gap because I'm so tired of women charging less than our male entrepreneurs. This
Yeah.
research is showing this. This is the next book after this one is
You've
the
got a lot
research.
of work to do,
I got a lot
but
of work.
yes,
I've
you
got a
have a
big
lot of
mission.
books to write. No, that is so true. And the more millionaires that you can make with women,
Yes.
I'm more focusing on women in this thought process because of the pay gap, because of what you were saying. As a woman entrepreneur, I feel like the more good we have in the world, the more good women who are millionaires, the better our world will be. That's just, I feel like that's an amazing ripple effect that you're creating. Yes, high five, high five.
Yeah.
Um, so what would be, everyone who's listening is going to pick up your book. That's going to happen. But what is one thing that you could do to activate your millionaire mindset? One thing they could take away from this podcast.
Pay attention to what you're saying to yourself.
Okay.
Because
About money or just in general?
yes, everything,
Everything.
honestly. Because
Yeah.
from the first thing you wake up, are you saying, "Oh, I gotta get out of bed and I gotta," or are you going, "Ooh, I get to get out of bed. And this goes back to James Clear's at Atomic Habits. Great book for this.
Yes,
But
that's
it's
such a good book.
such a great book. So honestly, it's around really paying attention to those thoughts that you're having in your head because
Mm.
every time you have a thought, you're programming your unconscious mind.
Yes, I'm a big Louise Hay lover. I love Louise Hay, and she, again, I used to roll my eyes when she would say, "Look at yourself in the mirror and say I love you." And I
Yeah.
was like 18 when I first heard that, and I said, "That's so dumb. I'm not going to do that." But now I do it, and I go, "Oh my gosh, I get to be 50. I'm so lucky. I
Mm.
get to get up. I can get up." There's so many things, and having that you're talking about gratitude, really, and having that placement of gratitude sends out energy in such a different way, and what you put out into the world comes back to you, and that's money. It's with anything, really.
I will tell you, when you do that mirror work and you also just pay attention to how you're talking to yourself,
Uh-huh.
including those comments that you're making to your girlfriend, to your husband, to your this, to your that, to other people, to your wife, those are the comments that you go, "Oh, that's the most revealing." And those, quite frankly, as a coach of NLP, those are the comments I'm paying the most attention to.
Yeah, big
Because
time.
those are the ones that are really telling me how their brain is doing the problem.
And how and gosh, yeah, what you think of yourself. Whether, sometimes whether you're telling it to your girlfriend, your husband, or, sometimes we're really mean to ourselves in our
Sometimes
mind.
yes,
If we don't tell anyone but ourselves. I
right?
think I wouldn't talk to anyone this way.
And we allow it. Yeah, honestly, and that's the first step to it. And then the next step is believe you can,
Oh god, it's such a big one.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
hey, if it's possible, so the whole book, The Millionaire Brain, which is the next one coming out sometime next in 2026,
yeah,
that is it's with the publisher right now. Um, that is really about if they can do it, it's possible for you. So, like, if you see it in somebody else, oh, that's the universe saying to you, hey, if they can do it, I can do it. If
yeah.
it's possible for them, how can that be possible for me? Not the whole limiting thing, which is, why can't I have that? why can they do it and I can't do it? But it's the whole, hey, if it's possible for them and I'm seeing it, it must be possible for me too.
Yeah. And when you start seeing people who have what you want and you start celebrating them,
Yes.
that's a big one because
Big one.
I know a lot of people that maybe if you happen to be somebody who's listening who's really successful, I've experienced this having been, starring on Broadway and all the things where there are some people who will try to knock you down
Oh, yeah.
and you go, "Oh, that's more about them than me." And so if you're feeling that or you feel like you're looking at somebody who has something that you want and you feel that sting of jealousy, envy, take that as a message that you have to flip that to, oh my gosh, look how amazing that person's life is because that's coming from a place of gratitude and you can see yourself in that place.
Mhm.
Not that it's so far away.
Right.
Yeah?
I love that. And what I
Yeah.
particularly love is Lynn Twist's words, which are when you appreciate what you appreciate appreciates. So
Yes.
be an appreciation, celebrate genuinely other people's success. Several years ago, we had bought the house that I'm in right now, which I had manifested. I had seen it in a visualization. And so I knew we were supposed to be here, but the old house wasn't selling.
Oh, okay.
So we were in a place where we had two houses for a few months. And, that's a financial strain.
Yeah, yeah. It can be scary. Yes.
And the market was going down, 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 and I was watching the price go down, and, of course, the price of the current house had been set the year before because it was a brand new build. So, I was seeing the gap increasing, and I was, concerned about that, and I followed my DCFAI, decide that everything's gonna be fine, decided that we were gonna be in this house, committing by moving. We actually physically moved into the new house and left the old house, so we
Uh-huh.
committed. I kept focusing on it working. It's all gonna work out. Everything always works out for me. It's all gonna work out. I saw it aligned. Then I took the action. Of course, I was manifesting and praying every day, and I was moving my feet, and I was asking people, and I was talking about it.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening is, and this is the action that I took, I celebrated sold signs. So I remember it was October 18th. We drove along and I saw a sold sign and I'm like, oh my God, their house sold! Fantastic, their house sold! The house sold! Oh, fantastic. And I got that energy and I celebrated their sale. I genuinely celebrated the sold sign. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
today I still celebrate sold signs. Their house sold! Yay!
That is such a good example because people who may be looking for a home and they see a sold sign, they may look at it and be like, oh, that's good for them, or, blah, 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 or all those things that we do. But to flip it to, oh my God, how exciting
Yeah.
and putting yourself in that position of feeling that excitement, that's all the universe knows is the feeling and the love of a sold house. And you connect that back to you.
The next day we had an offer. The next day we had the offer. They offered, and then they wanted to push the closing date. I said, no, we needed to move it forward. So they moved it forward. Both houses closed on the exact same day. The new build
Wow.
and everything worked out better than I could have planned. If I had been focused on, all the things that were going to go wrong,
Yeah.
yeah. But I focused and it was all fine. And what was happening is I reduced the cortisol level, the stress level, the anxiety level inside of my own body.
Isn't that amazing how when those manifestations happen, and again, I could do a whole podcast on just that because I have a lot of examples that has happened to me. It happens so much faster than you expect if you have those moments of celebrating somebody who's doing something that you want,
Mhm.
really celebrating, not because, Suzanne and Meredith are telling you to celebrate, like celebrating genuinely and having that feeling, because it's a feeling universe.
Mhm. Mhm.
Wow, I love that story. So, for someone who's listening who is on a walk or doing whatever they're doing and they really feel stuck,
Mm.
they don't really know what to do. They know they need to decide, but they're not there yet. What is one maybe small thing they could do today to start rewiring their nervous system for more clarity or courage or confidence? As I just took a deep breath, my thing would be breathing. I mean, I honestly, if I don't know where to go, I just start with a breath and try to exhale all the cortisol levels or the stress. But what would be your advice?
I love celebrating my own success and my own achievements. And because we women, especially, we discount all the things we've done and we
Yes.
focus on all the stuff that we have to do, and we beat ourselves up. So I would love you to just in this moment take a deep breath in and celebrate a win, an accomplishment, and I want you to say it out loud. Go share it with somebody else because when you're celebrating a win and not paying attention to how they respond, like just celebrate that win, that is huge because you're rewiring your neurology immediately. You're changing the way that you handle that instead of because what we have done, what we've been conditioned to do is, oh no, I couldn't take that. I didn't, I don't do that. Oh, and we push it away. And how is the universe going to give you what you really want when you keep pushing away the little things? So please, if you could journal or just remind yourself of all your wins. You might have beautiful children at home, a beautiful marriage, a beautiful relationship. You might have whatever the win is. Just the fact that there was one woman I remember taking Weight Watchers years ago, and the woman said, I have nothing on my body that's beautiful. I'm not going to celebrate anything. And then finally, she said, you know what? I like my feet. So she started giving love to her feet, and then she was able to lose the weight and everything, be successful. But celebrate the little things.
Yeah.
Then it's easier for you to see the bigger things. And then you accept more compliments and you accept more money and new things happen because people are saying to you, you're different somehow.
Yeah.
You just seem lighter somehow and you're more attractive.
Mhm.
And I mean that in the magnetic way, you're more
Absolutely.
attractive. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's funny is that I was bullied as a young teen, like preteen, for being good at dancing, good at a lot of things. I was modeling, and I was probably around 12 or 13. So it was
Mhm.
very, very formidable years. And I was bullied by girls, and it was a really tough moment because I started diminishing myself.
Yeah.
And I hate when I see that in other women, and I hate it when I still see it in myself sometimes. And I love the quote from Marianne Williamson, "Who am I to be beautiful, gorgeous, talented? Who are you not to be?" And what I love so much is when I see women who are beautiful, talented, awesome. And I don't mean beautiful from the aesthetically. I mean, I can see a woman just radiate, and I celebrate that person because I think of the inner child work, or like talking to myself at 12 and being like, no, you're amazing. That was more about them. They couldn't handle it, so they were being mean. And they're still mean girls that are mean adults. And so celebrate yourself, love yourself. That's such a great and wonderful, wonderful bit of advice. So your Instagram and YouTube channels, Success and Clarity, are full of empowering content.
Mhm.
How do you stay inspired, and how can listeners connect with you and go deeper into your work, like work with you personally?
Mhm. How do I stay inspired? I read good books, listen to great podcasts, still watch Oprah, I have several coaches. I still do this work with myself and my
Yes.
coach. I will always, I always think that it's important to hire a coach who has a coach or two, because we want to keep working. My job is to keep myself in a place where I am calm, resilient, and able to not project on my own clients
Yes. Yeah.
right. I need to fully be there for them. So yeah, so I do my own work and pay attention to how I'm thinking, and feed my mind with really good positive things. I also have the most delightful, inspiring, beautiful, love of my life husband. And when I'm in those moments I will go to him and just sort of talk things out. And I find that incredibly helpful.
Yeah, me too. I have the most incredible husband and kids that just kind
Mhm.
of will take me out of those moments, because I always say we have low moments, and we have moments of a dip. I like to call them a dip.
Oh,
You
I love
said
that.
success spiral.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have the other kind of
Yes.
spiral, which is not a good one.
Not great.
But I also say give yourself 5 minutes. Maybe it's 10. Maybe it's 20 on some days, but give yourself that time, go through it. Don't beat yourself up and come back out of it, and go to a coach or go to somebody and go to YouTube and go and listen to your empowering stuff and really connect in that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you.
Well,
And yeah, reach out, connect with me. Let's chat.
yeah. And it's just such an inspiring talk. And thank you so much for everything that you've said and everything that you have educated us on. I mean, because, you've given us not only science behind transformation, but also the tools to start activating our highest potential. Because
Mm,
that's really what I always want, is to be the best version of myself. And that changes day to day. And I'm always striving for that next thing. So thank you so
thank
much for the
you.
work that you do, for being here on the podcast. I'm not kidding when I say I need you to coach me. And everyone that's listening is like, Meredith needs some focus. So no, I say that because I do really admire you. I admire coaches, and I feel like people who are in a position to coach, I think everyone needs a coach. I think everyone should have a coach.
Yeah.
And finding someone that aligns with, their what they believe and all the things. And you just everything that if you guys are watching on YouTube, I'm just sitting here like up and down, just listening to everything you say, which is in total alignment with what I love. And to my listeners, you can find Suzanne at successandclarity.com. Follow her on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Success and Clarity, and I'll have everything in the show notes. So thank you everybody for listening. Remember, bliss is your birthright, and have vision for what you want, but be grateful for where you are every single day. Thank you.
Thank you.